The air in the funeral home was thick with grief, the kind of grief that presses down on your chest. So hard it feels like your lungs might collapse. The room smelled of lilies and waxed wood, and muted whispers of condolences echoed off the walls. My hands trembled as I adjusted my tie, staring at the polished oak coffin that held my daughter, Lily. I could hardly believe she was gone. 8 years old, bright, full of life. Gone. My wife, Karen, stood at the other end of the room, her face pale, lips pressed tightly together. I had expected her to be just as devastated as I was, but the moment she laid eyes on me, I knew something was off. A chill ran down my spine. She wasn't crying. Her eyes burned, not with sorrow, but with something else. Something I couldn't immediately name. Then she spoke. "She died because of your genetics," she screamed, the words slicing through the air like a knife. Every head in the room turned toward us, the murmurs of grief instantly shifting into awkward silence. My heart stopped. My knees weakened. I wanted to say something, anything, but no words came. I remember gripping the edge of a nearby chair to steady myself. Her accusation was absurd, irrational. Lily was my daughter, too, genetically. But this wasn't about science. This was about blame. And she wasn't hiding it. Karen's scream echoed again. "Do you hear me? She died because of you!" I felt broken, completely shattered, not just by Lily's death, but by the way the woman I loved was turning against me in the worst possible moment. Weeks of planning her funeral, months of sleepless nights, and years of raising our daughter together, gone. And in their place, anger, rage, and blame, directed at me. The funeral ended in a blur. I barely remember people approaching to console me. I barely remember the ride home. I sat in the passenger seat of our old SUV, staring out the window at the rain streaking down, unable to process anything. Karen didn't speak. She didn't even look at me. By that evening, she dropped the bomb that would shake my life even further. She wanted a divorce at our daughter's funeral. After accusing me of causing Lily's death, I felt my heart twist in ways I didn't think were humanly possible. "I can't live with you anymore," she said, her voice eerily calm now. "I can't trust you. I can't forgive you, and I don't want to." I remember staring at her, my mind blank. "Karen, I don't... Sign the papers!" "It's over," she cut me off, sliding a manila envelope across the kitchen table. Her eyes didn't meet mine. I felt my hands shake as I picked it up, the weight of it suddenly feeling like lead. Inside were the divorce documents, clean and finalized. All I could do was sign. I signed everything, numb and broken. The days that followed were a haze. I moved through them mechanically, attending to funeral arrangements, calling relatives, handling condolences. Every text, every phone call felt like an intrusion into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere. On Karen's accusation, on Lily, on the unbearable emptiness in our house. One evening, as I sat alone in the living room staring at Lily's favorite blanket draped over the sofa, something in me shifted. I needed answers. I needed to know if there was even a shred of truth in what Karen had said. It was irrational, but grief can do strange things to a person. Maybe my bloodline was cursed. Maybe some hidden genetic defect had caused her death. Maybe, but I refused to accept it blindly. I called the hospital, and a few weeks later, Lily's autopsy report arrived in a plain white envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. My heart raced faster than it ever had. I had to know. The words on the page blurred as I read them over and over, trying to make sense of the clinical language. The report said Lily had passed due to complications from a severe allergic reaction. There was nothing hereditary about it. Nothing in my genes, nothing in hers. My stomach dropped. Relief and anger collided inside me like a storm. Relief that it wasn't my fault. Anger that Karen had weaponized our daughter's death against me. But the autopsy wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. Something in the report caught my eye. A reference to an item she had with her, a phone. I had never seen it before, never knew she had it. The hospital had kept it safe. But they warned me it might contain distressing material. I hesitated. But my curiosity, mingled with a gnawing fear of betrayal, compelled me to look. I picked up the phone. It was locked. Typical 8-year-old security measures. A simple PIN. I tried guessing, thinking of her favorite numbers. Birthdays, little codes she loved. On the 5th try, it clicked open. and what I saw made my blood run cold. The messages were cryptic at first, innocent enough to outsiders, playful and childlike. But as I scrolled, patterns emerged. A series of conversations with someone she referred to as Uncle T, someone I didn't recognize. Messages grew darker over time, hints of fear. Notes about being told to do things she didn't want to do, moments of clear distress. I felt my chest tighten. Questions raced through my mind. Who was this person? Why hadn't she told me? And why now, after she was gone? Did the truth seem to be dangling in front of me, just out of reach? I knew one thing. Karen's accusations weren't just wrong, they were a diversion. She wanted me to look like the villain, to drown in guilt. But the phone, this tiny piece of technology, promised to reveal what she had been hiding. I shut the phone, my hands slick with sweat, my mind spinning. I didn't know if I was ready to confront what lay ahead. But something told me I couldn't stop. For Lily, for myself, for the truth. And deep down, I knew that once I uncovered what was really going on, nothing in my life would ever be the same again. The first time I stared at Lily's phone, I felt like I had entered a world I wasn't meant to see. Her small fingers had typed so many words. I didn't understand it. First, innocent messages to friends, little notes about school, her favorite cartoons, her birthday plans, but buried beneath them were hints of something far darker. Uncle T, please stop. I don't want to. The words froze me in place. Who was Uncle T? I had no idea. My mind immediately shot to Karen. Maybe she knew this person. Maybe she had brought him into our lives. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I scrolled further. The messages grew more frantic. I don't like it when you do that. I want Mommy. Please don't tell anyone. I'll get in trouble. My hands trembled. The fatherly instinct in me surged. Rage, fear, helplessness. Lily hadn't confided in me. She hadn't told Karen. Who had put her in this position? And why? Then I noticed something else. A pattern. Every conversation with Uncle T coincided with days when Karen seemed distant, when she was out of the house at meetings or shopping trips. I remembered those days now, the ones I had barely noticed in the fog of work and parenting, the days when Lily seemed uneasy, clinging to me more than usual. A terrible thought struck me. Could Karen be involved? No, I told myself. It's impossible. She loved Lily. She would never. But the next messages made me question everything. I told Daddy everything. He doesn't believe me. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Daddy! She had tried to reach me. How had I missed it? My chest tightened. How had I been so blind? Then at the very end of the phone, I found something that made my heart stop entirely. Photos. Lily's little face, her big, bright eyes, frozen in moments of fear. They were taken secretly, snapshots of her at home, at school, and even in the car. But the most chilling was a photo showing her standing in the living room, looking toward the door as if someone had entered. And Karen was nowhere in the frame. Yet the shadow behind her suggested someone else was there. I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely breathe. I had to figure this out, but I didn't know where to start. The next morning, I returned to Lily's school. I needed answers. Teachers, friends, anyone who could shed light on this Uncle T. The receptionist gave me a polite but wary look when I explained that Lily had passed away, and I needed access to her belongings and any notes or items she left behind. A kind teacher, Mrs. Hargrove, led me to Lily's desk. Among her notebooks and art supplies, I found a small journal, its pages filled with messy handwriting and crayon sketches. At first, they seemed innocent, drawings of sunshine, flowers, and hearts. But as I flipped the pages, I noticed annotations, little notes about feelings of fear, lines like, I don't want to be alone with him. I hope Daddy will find out. I wish Mommy would believe me. The words stabbed me in the heart. My daughter had been trying to tell someone, anyone, what was happening. But no one had listened. Or maybe they had and nothing had been done. I rushed home and confronted Karen. I needed answers. I had to understand why she had blamed me at Lily's funeral. She looked at me calmly, almost coldly. You're imagining things. You're desperate for someone to blame. I slammed Lily's phone onto the kitchen counter, the screen flashing messages that proved what I had seen. Look at this. Who is Uncle T? Why was she afraid? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you blame me? Karen froze for a moment, then quickly composed herself. Her eyes narrowed and she shook her head. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're reading too much into this. Lily, she was just a scared little girl. Don't twist her death into some conspiracy." But I couldn't let it go. Something in her voice told me she was hiding more than she was saying. I decided to dig deeper. Over the next few days, I reviewed every single message on Lily's phone, every contact, every call history, and slowly a horrifying pattern emerged. Uncle T was not who I had feared. He wasn't a stranger. He was someone close, someone who had access to our home, someone who had been manipulating Lily and possibly Karen as well. I needed evidence, proof. Otherwise, it would be my word against hers. And after what had happened at the funeral, after the divorce papers, I knew no one would believe me. That night I sat in Lily's room, her toys untouched, her bed neatly made, a cruel reminder of the life stolen from us. I replayed every memory, every day she had seemed uneasy, and then it hit me, a single moment I had dismissed as trivial. The day Lily had cried for hours about a strange man she saw in the park, one she said she didn't want to talk about. I had assumed it was a schoolyard fear, nothing more. But now I saw the connection. Uncle T, the messages, the photos, the fear in her eyes. I knew I was on the edge of discovering something that would change everything. And then I found it. A hidden folder on the phone, password protected. I had guessed every combination I could think of. But finally, a tiny clue in her notes led me to the right number. The folder opened. Inside were videos. Videos of Lily, at home in her room alone. Whispers of someone talking off camera. Footsteps, shadows moving. And then a final clip that made me physically recoil. Lily crying, whispering a name, Karen's name, pleading for her to stop. It couldn't be. My wife, my daughter. The words echoed in my mind. Karen had lied. She had blamed me. And now in my hands was proof that the nightmare she had blamed on my genetics was, in fact, orchestrated by someone very close to her. The rage inside me boiled over. I wanted to confront her, to scream, to demand answers. But I knew that acting rashly could destroy everything. I had to be smart, careful, strategic. Because what I had discovered wasn't just shocking. It was dangerous. And I was only beginning to scratch the surface. I couldn't sleep that night. Lily's room felt unbearably empty, the silence pressing down on me like a physical weight. I kept replaying the videos in my head, the way she had whispered Karen's name in fear, the shadows moving around her, the terror in her tiny voice. Every time I thought I understood what had happened, a new horrifying possibility revealed itself. The next morning I made a decision. I needed to confront Karen, but not recklessly. If she truly had been involved in what happened to Lily, or even worse, if she had known about it, then any misstep could put me in a trap. I needed evidence. Hard evidence. Something undeniable. I started digging into her recent activities. Bills, receipts, messages, phone logs. Every detail mattered. Every call, every text. And slowly, a terrifying picture emerged. Karen had been receiving large, unexplained payments over the past few months. Cash deposits, online transfers, things she never mentioned. And they coincided with days when Lily had been scared, alone, or acting unusually anxious. I confronted her again. My voice was shaking, not with fear, but with controlled anger. Karen, I know about the payments. I know you've been hiding something. I know you were lying about Lily's death being my fault. She froze. For a moment, I thought she might finally confess, but then her face hardened. You have no idea what you're talking about, she said, her voice low but steady. You're seeing shadows where there are none. I slammed a stack of papers onto the table. Bank statements, transaction histories, phone logs. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. A hint of panic. You're lying, I said. I've seen the videos. Lily, she was scared. She named you. Don't lie to me. Karen's hands trembled slightly, but she composed herself quickly. You're crazy. You think I'd hurt our daughter? You're imagining things. Lily, she was just confused. She didn't understand. You're twisting everything. But I wasn't listening anymore. I had what I needed to start putting the pieces together. I remembered something from the videos, the whispers, the footsteps, the shadows. Someone had been entering Lily's room without permission. Someone she trusted enough to call Karen in desperation. But why? What could Karen possibly gain from manipulating a child she supposedly loved? Then I remembered the final clue I had almost overlooked. A small audio file attached to the hidden folder. It was faint, almost imperceptible at first, but with headphones I could hear it clearly. A voice, Karen's voice, speaking to someone urgently, angrily, but with a strange mixture of fear and calculation. Make sure he doesn't find out. She has to be careful. Keep it quiet, or everything is over. The words made my stomach drop. She was orchestrating something. And the Uncle T my daughter had mentioned, it wasn't a stranger. It was a part of her own plan. Someone she was using to manipulate Lily, to cover up her own actions. I felt bile rise in my throat. My mind raced. Why? Why would she do this? What could possibly drive a mother to terrorize her own child and blame the father? I decided to dig into Karen's past, anything that could explain this behavior. Old emails, messages, social media posts, even conversations with friends and family. And then I found it, a shocking revelation. Karen had been living a secret life, one I had never suspected. Months before Lily's death, Karen had become involved with someone, a man who had a dark reputation. She had been hiding this relationship, funneling money to him, and orchestrating situations to make Lily fearful whenever I wasn't around. The plan was sinister, to isolate me, make me seem negligent, and ultimately shift all blame for anything bad that happened onto me. Everything clicked. The accusations at the funeral, the divorce, the autopsy report, the hidden messages, the videos, all of it was a meticulously crafted web. Karen had manipulated our daughter's fear, our family, and even the grief of everyone around us. I felt a surge of rage unlike anything I had ever known. My daughter was gone. My family had been torn apart by lies. And Karen, she had gotten away with it. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I knew I needed a plan. Evidence alone wasn't enough. I had to expose her, publicly and irrefutably, to reclaim the truth for Lily. Over the next few days, I worked methodically. Every message, every photo, every video was cataloged. I made multiple copies, stored them securely, and even contacted a private investigator I trusted. Someone had to help me bring this to light without risking my own life or sanity. And then came the first opportunity. Karen, confident in her manipulation, made a mistake. She left her phone unlocked, her emails accessible. I discovered conversations with the man she had been hiding her. Relationship with. Explicit plans to isolate me. To control Lily's perception. To create a false narrative about my genetics and my supposed negligence. It was all there. The proof I needed. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the documents, photos, and videos. My heart still ached for Lily, but a spark of determination ignited inside me. Karen thought she could control the story, manipulate reality, and escape justice. But she hadn't counted on me discovering the truth. And now, with everything in my hands, I knew it was time. Time to confront her, time to expose the lies, and time to ensure that Lily's voice, finally, would be heard. But even as I prepared, I realized one terrifying possibility. Karen wouldn't go down quietly. She was clever, calculating, and ruthless. And if she realized I was onto her, who knew what she might do next? One thing was certain. The battle for the truth had only just begun. The house felt colder than usual that morning. The silence wasn't comforting. It was heavy, oppressive, as though it knew the storm that was about to break. I had gathered every piece of evidence. The messages, videos, photos, autopsy report, Karen's hidden transactions, and emails with the man she'd been secretly working with. My hands shook, not from fear, but from a mix of grief and rage that had been simmering for weeks. I knew this confrontation could go one of two ways. Karen could crumble under the weight of the truth, or she could lash out, desperate to protect the carefully constructed lies she had built around herself. Either way, this was the moment. She walked into the living room pretending to be casual, her face calm. But I could see the tension behind her eyes. I set the phone, the folder, and the documents on the table. "Karen," I said, my voice steady, controlled. "It's time we talked. No more lies. No more games. Lily deserves the truth." Her lips tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." I picked up Lily's phone and played one of the videos. Her small, terrified face filled the screen. Her little voice whispered Karen's name, pleading. I watched as Karen's expression shifted from feigned calm to a flicker of panic. That's not," she stammered. I didn't let her finish. I spread the documents across the table. Bank statements showing large payments, emails with her secret lover, messages coordinating Lily's fear, and finally, the autopsy report confirming Lily's death was an allergic reaction, not something I could have caused. "Do you see this?" I asked, my voice low and cutting. "Everything you blamed me for, everything you screamed at me during her funeral, it was lies. You orchestrated her fear. You lied about her death. You lied about me. You made her scared of the one person she trusted most." Tears welled up in her eyes, not sorrow but fear. She realized the walls she had built around herself were crumbling. "You don't understand," she began, her voice shaky. "I understand perfectly," I interrupted. "You wanted to isolate me, to control the narrative, to make me the villain in Lily's story. But the truth always finds a way out." She turned pale. I could see her calculating, thinking of excuses, defenses. But there were none. The proof was undeniable. Every single interaction she had orchestrated was documented. Every manipulation, every lie. Then came the moment I never thought I'd see. Karen broke. I didn't mean for her to. It wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You didn't mean for her to die? Or you didn't mean for her to be scared?" I asked, my voice sharp but my eyes full of grief. Her silence was the answer. I realized then that revenge wasn't about anger or punishment. It was about exposing the truth, reclaiming the story for Lily, and making sure her voice was finally heard. I called the private investigator and sent all the evidence to the authorities. Everything Karen had tried to hide, the payments, the secret communications, the orchestration of Lily's fear, was now in the hands of professionals who could ensure justice would be served. Karen begged, pleaded, tried to manipulate again, but no one would listen. The documents, videos, and messages were irrefutable. She had lost her control, her power, and the narrative she had tried to rewrite. As I watched her escorted out by the investigators, a strange sense of relief washed over me. The grief didn't disappear. Lily was still gone. The house still felt empty. But there was justice now. There was truth. And most importantly, there was closure. That night I sat in Lily's room, surrounded by her drawings, her toys, her little belongings. I picked up her favorite blanket, hugged it tightly, and whispered into the silence. "I'm so sorry, Lily. I failed you in ways I didn't even realize. But I promise your story is told. Your voice will never be silenced again." For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of peace. The storm of lies had passed, and though the pain remained, the shadows that had haunted us were finally lifting. I knew life would never be the same. Karen's betrayal had left scars, and the memory of Lily would always ache in my heart. But I also knew that truth and justice had a power no lie could ever match. And sometimes, in the aftermath of darkness, even the smallest light, like the memory of a beloved daughter, can guide you back to hope.